You hear that noise? That's a sound that a lot of guitar players struggle with. Just noises and buzzes from their pedalboard and their guitar rig. Fortunately, there are some easy steps that you can take to cut that down. You might not be able to get rid of it completely depending on your gear, but you should be able to make a huge dent in it. And I would love to talk about how to do that today. Welcome to Blazing Guitars. So recently somebody commented on one of my videos and asked if I use a noise gate in my rig. And I think that's a really reasonable question because what a noise gate is it cuts everything below a certain threshold so that no noise comes through until it's loud enough to pass the threshold. So essentially you would set it to the decibel level of your hum, but then just at that level so that anything above that would come through. Now the problem with that is that anything above that would still include the hum that's originally there. So we want to actually start backwards and try to fix the hum initially before we move forwards with that. So there can be a couple reasons why your board is humming. The first and most important one, and maybe the biggest culprit for a lot of people, is their power supply. So when I was first starting out making my board, I was using the True Tone one spot with the daisy chained effects, and I didn't know any better, so I was just using that, for a long time, and my board was loud. So I ended up buying a pedalboard that actually came with a Joyo Power Supply 2, which it has 10 isolated outputs for your pedals, and this made a huge difference, and my eyes were opened and I saw the light. So there's a couple things when thinking about a power supply. First is you need to know how to power your pedals. And there's three things that you really need to know about powering your pedals. The first is what voltage they take. So if you put an 18 volt into a 9 volt pedal, then you are going to fry your pedal to kingdom come. So you want to make sure that your voltage is correct for each pedal. And like this Joyo one has 9 volts, and then it has a 12 volts and an 18 volts as well. So a lot of supplies come with different voltages so that you can power different pedals. The second thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about powering your pedals is to make sure that you have the correct polarity. So if you look at your pedal, you'll see a little diagram. And on that diagram, it'll actually tell you what the polarity is. So if the negative is pointing to the center like this, then it's called a center negative. If it's positive pointing to the center, then it's center positive. So it's really important that you get those in the correct order and that you're powering your supplies with the correct voltage, the correct polarity. And then the third thing is the correct current. So pedals take a certain number of current, and like digital pedals take a lot more current. So the reason I upgraded from this Joyo is because all of the outputs have 100 milliamps of current, and like my Strymon Iridium needs 300 milliamps, or my Collider needs 250. So look at the pedals and you'll see at the bottom, it'll tell you all of this information. It'll tell you the voltage, it'll tell you the polarity, and it'll tell you the current that you need. And then the fourth thing is to look for isolated inputs. So you want to make sure that you have the correct voltage, you want to make sure that you have the correct polarity, you want to make sure that you have the correct current, and then also make sure that you have isolated power supplies. And then get power supplies accordingly. So what would be tempting is to think I need a Joyo Power Supply 2. But in reality, you need to look at the pedals that you actually have and the pedals that you're thinking about getting, and then getting a power supply that is appropriate for those pedals. So I ended up with the Walrus Phoenix, and that has served me really well. It has 15 different outputs and just a ton of versatility to it, and it might seem a little bit over the top, but it's really served me well and fit my needs exactly how I was hoping it would. And then I know True Tone makes an isolated power supply brick. MXR has a couple. There's a bunch of companies that have power supplies. The trick is just finding one that matches your needs. The second culprit could actually be your guitar. So I have my Les Paul down. I tried to shoot this video with my Reverend back there, but I was getting a ton of noise because it is a single coil and it was picking up all the light interference. So that's one thing. If you have single coils on your guitar, you might get a lot more interference than if you have humbuckers. And the reason they're called humbuckers is because they were actually designed to buck hum. So they are two single coils wrapped in a series, and it's all designed to cancel out hum. So if I split my humbucker and just do one of the singles, like this guitar has, you can hear that level just got a little bit louder. It got, all of a sudden it's picking up all the lights and it's picking up all kinds of things. And actually, the crazy thing is you can point a guitar away from power sources and it'll become quieter. So just keep that in mind as you're playing at church, and if you really, really like your single coil, make sure that you are riding your volume knob and turning it down between songs so that nothing's coming through. And then the third thing I would check is just make sure that your patch cables are correct. So it can be easy to have a cheap cable that goes out, or so it's causing problems or it's picking up interference. So just make sure that all your cables are solid and good quality as you move forward. And they don't have to be like super expensive, but if you are experiencing a lot of problems, maybe consider upgrading your patch cables. So there you have it. I hope that was helpful. If you do absolutely need a noise gate and you feel like that's the best solution for you, absolutely go for it. I'm not saying you don't have to. I'm just saying that there's some steps that you can probably take before you go to a noise gate that can really make a difference and just get you cleaner overall tone. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, or if you'd like to discuss with me on some ideas or some problems that you're having, you are free to jump into my Discord, where I would be glad to engage in those types of conversations. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we will see you next week.